Hi guys, thanks for sticking around. I know we had a little break earlier, but I would like everyone to just stand up and stretch for a little while. This is part of my presentation, I swear. So if you've been sitting down, just stand up for a little while, and then you can sit back down, and then later on I might change your mind about the sitting part. Anyway, so my name is April Saterman. I'm a simultaneous degree in both architecture and music, and I will be talking about experience-based design. So the course threads I took were mostly architecture-based, as you can see, social and cultural factors in design, as one of the other earlier presenters also took. With the same professor, I also took a class on body-conscious design, and then some architecture history classes, and then some classes on environmental design and people and environments. These, of course, are leaning towards the CED College of Environmental Design department, but I also took some other classes that were not listed, but I still felt contributed significantly to what I learned about design. There's a global poverty and practice class taught by Ananya Roy. It's one of the most popular classes on campus. An environmental design class that I took as of my first architecture studio, and also my architecture studios contributed a lot, as long as with a Danish Scandinavian design and architecture study abroad program I did. So I'll start off by talking about a few examples of design, the lessons I learned from them, and then one of my own projects. So in architecture, we rely on precedents a lot. So as part of the studios, we study all these previous buildings and precedents and try to gain knowledge from them. So this architecture firm Morphosis, run by the celebrity architect or starchitect Tom Main, when he designed this building, he saw the problem of that people inside buildings were not socializing enough with each other and communicating within their own building. He wanted people from different floors to meet each other through their daily interactions. So what he implemented was this system called Skipstop Circulation. As you can see, it's where the elevator only stops on every other floor or every third floor. And so this was to encourage people to take the stairs. There's a central staircase, and they were supposed to meet each other and communicate for added health benefits and socializations. However, there's this thing called a post-occupancy evaluation that's done in architecture and in a lot of other things, where you talk to people after a building has already been built, either through formal or informal surveys. Sometimes there's not enough it's not really a priority, unfortunately. And so a lot of the times it's just through forums or people who actually have to work in the building a lot. And what they found out that besides people in the building who had to work in this building every day, they really hated the skip-stop circulation because they had to take stairs. If you wanted to go, for example, the 8th floor, you'd have to take the elevator to 7th floor and then take stairs, like walk across and take stairs to get to the next floor. It also isolated a large community of disabled people who had to take the elevator that was sort of secluded on the other side of the building. So they were, instead of being more inclusive and having more people communicate, this was actually isolating a lot of people. So you would think that from learning that this system didn't exactly work in this one situation, you would think that we'd say, oh, maybe we shouldn't do this, but actually, he did it again. There's this building called the Cooper Union in New York. It's an art, and if you've heard of the Cooper Union, it's an art and design school. It's very revolutionary. They have a lot of interesting projects coming out, and they wanted a building that would reflect all this also. So they hired Tom Main to design it, and used skip-stop circulation again, except here, it's in an art and design building. And for those of you who are familiar with architecture and design students, when they're running late for deadlines, they do not want to take the stairs, especially if your hands are full of your projects. And so again, this was not exactly successful, and a lot of the complaints have been from online forums and from students who live there, who work in that space, is that the circulation actually takes up too much space to the detriment of the classrooms. So the classrooms are actually too small because there's this huge staircase in the middle. So Now, we're talking about this skip-stop circulation. This has only been in the past, like, these within 3 years of each other. We're like, well, I guess it's fairly recent, you know? Maybe it's still experimental. What if, you know, if only Tom Main and Morphosis had a precedent to draw upon that they could have studied in the past, you know, to realize that, oh, you know, maybe this doesn't work. If only there was another building that had used skip-stop circulation 50 years before. So this is the Pruitt-Ego Urban Housing Project in St. Louis, Missouri. It's designed by another celebrity architect, Mr. Yamasaki. It was designed in 1954. This architect also went on to design the previous World Trade Center and also a lot of other significant projects. So it was an urban housing project, and while it did have, it was hailed as the start of a new era in terms of, like urban large-scale housing. And one of the issues that it had was, well, it was designed with skip-stop circulation in mind. Now, I understand this is a residential project, completely different program from the other two. But so here they had central floors where the elevator would only stop on like every other floor, and all the like community amenities would be on this floor, while the alternating floors where people had to take stairs were only residential. So unfortunately, of course there were many other social and cultural factors in this problem, but that led to a rash of muggings in the stairwells. Like people going home they couldn't safely just take the elevator to their floor. They would have to go into a pretty dark and creepy stairwell, and it was a significant enough problem. So it compromised security, safety, and like as the sense of community they were trying to build with the skip-stop circulation. So that's what happened to it about 20 years later. I'm gonna take a look at design on a smaller scale now. So for example, here's an ergonomically designed seating system. You can tell it has two positions. It was designed in the 1990s by a doctor in Denmark. And it's for school children, and it's been sized to fit their bodies. Very successful in studies, praised by experts, like ergonomically proven, like also decently priced to manufacture. And it was implemented across Denmark and other parts of Scandinavia. I learned about this in my Architecture 212 Body Conscious Design class taught by Professor Galen Kranz. However, when Professor Kranz visited Denmark recently, she gave a presentation with this slide, a similar slide with instructions on how to use the chair. And it turns out all these Danish college students looked at it and they're like, oh, that's how you're supposed to use the chair. Because even though this was a great design and all these health benefits, they were never shown how to sit in it, these two different positions. So that negated any really health benefits. So even though a design may have like all these considerations into it, it needed to be inserted into the public sphere correctly. So I guess what lessons can we learn from these couple examples? I guess one we could talk about is design is about failure. Not necessarily failing, but we should learn from failures, and not just our own, but the failures of others. The design process is iterative. You're not expected to come up with like a magic solution to every problem like instantly, but it's important to look at precedents and look at failures that you can draw upon and improve your designs. Another thing we can learn is design is more about people, not products. So for example, with that earlier chair, it was a great design, but it was just not implemented together correctly. People are complicated. We have all these social, cultural, behavioral, physical facts like systems that we're a part of that you have to take into consideration when you do a design. And so now I'm going to talk about one of the projects I did for the Body Conscious Design class. So as I mentioned, I'm a simultaneous degree in music, and my main instrument is piano. And I've spent a lot of time playing piano, hanging out in the practice rooms, being a musician along with other musicians. And so from this design class, we learned that sitting is bad. There are numerous studies to prove it. Sitting at a 90-degree angle and is quite bad for you. We had to do a sitting log for this class, and we had to log the number of hours we sat within 2 weeks. The average is about 9 to 10. Some people were as high as 15 hours of just straight sitting in a day. And while one of the health associations recommends a maximum of 3 hours, while sitting, there are numerous detriments, but basically it is worse for your health than being a smoker or overweight, everything else equal. And so there have been a couple designs to try to alleviate this problem, like sitting in alternative postures. Now, if any of you would like to stand, I will not be offended. Or sit up. For example, if you sit on the top left one you can see, you have a bit of an angle and you're sitting on your knees, or in the Le Corbusier Chaise Lounge. On the side, you're sitting, you're more lying down. Now, pianists sit a lot. And unfortunately, we sit on normal benches, and those previous chairs would not really work for playing piano. And so our assignment was to design a body-conscious chair, but instead of just designing a chair, I thought about more of the system where, for example, all these chair designs are for sitting at an office or sitting stationary, and would it be feasible we know what the ergonomic solutions are, but it would be feasible to implement them for the motion of piano playing. Now, there's something you need to know about pianist culture. We usually have to deal with whatever piano we're presented, unless you're extremely rich or famous or just play in the comfort of your own piano at the top of a mountain. You don't get a choice about what you're playing. Here are a couple of the not so great options in the practice room. So not all this bad, but believe me, I've sat on almost every one of them at some point or another. So first, I was looking to see that there were some studies on like sitting with this angle in piano, and there's some benefits shown, and I wanted to see what was already available. It turns out there was already this chair here. It's an ergonomically designed bench. Unfortunately, it also costs around $800. And again, with pianists, we're usually used to just dealing with whatever is there, and none of us would like to carry around our own bench while practicing. So I did this study where I interviewed about 10 pianists in depth, experienced ones with a range of 10 to 66 years of active piano experience. I had them sit at the piano, play the same passage with these slight modifications to raise the angle. And so the initial design I went to is this Gorilla ergonomic solution where I use coasters to raise the lid of the bench a certain angle so it can be carried with you anywhere you go. Instead of carrying a bench or a pillow, you can just carry these coasters that would raise the lid for the proper angle. So I asked them to try playing with this and then give me their honest opinion of how it worked. So again, I had them first play one passage normally and then with 2 alterations. I also surveyed them on their performance preferences, their practice preferences, what genres they played, how often they played, what problems, or physical discomforts they had while playing. And so this is some of the feedback I got. Some people thought it was disorienting. They couldn't find the notes on the piano, which I think was a valid concern. I'm going to slide into the piano, or it's harder to reach upper and lower registers. While other people said my hips were more relaxed, it's easier to breathe, or my spine is more in alignment. So between the two, they were more split that people who performed more often or who played more classical genres were less likely to want to try this modification, even though they knew the health benefits, because it was just too different from what they had been taught. While people who were like singers or pianists who played rock or more alternative genres were more willing to try. However, this study it's ongoing, and I would like to see if I can draw more conclusions which brings me to the next one. Design is ongoing. And so I'd like to come up with a better solution, but as of right now, it's still in process. So I'd like to close with a quote that I found online. It says, "Don't study design, study life." And I'd like to add, don't just study, but experience it. Thank you.